Coming up, we finally get a return date for Fantasmic at Walt Disney World. Prices rise on food and beverage, as well as lightning lanes at Walt Disney World, and the Play Pavilion at the Wonders of Life in EPCOT at Walt Disney World is rumoredly canceled, and I've been talking to our sources where we've been able to glean some additional details as to why it might be canceled here. All that and more on the way. This is Mickey Views News.
All who come to this happy place, welcome.
Now I'm the king of the swingers.
That's what EPCOT is, an experimental prototype community that will always be in a state of becoming.
First up in the news today over at Disney's Hollywood Studios, we have some very exciting news. At first, we heard Fantasmic would be returning at some point in 2022. Then people were hoping more specifically for somewhere around July. That came and went. Now we finally have an official date from Disney, a return date for Fantasmic, that being November 3rd, 2022. So great to finally see this fatality of the events of 2020 finally making its way back into the Hollywood Studios lineup. The show will not be returning exactly the same as it was when it left. Scene modifications have been made as part of Disney's initiative to make their offerings more culturally relevant. Disney says, quote, "The new Heroes sequence features a high-energy Aladdin chase with stunts never before seen on the Fantasmic stage. A powerful scene with Elsa set to the song Show Yourself that is sure to thaw the most frozen of hearts, and stirring moments with Pocahontas, Moana, and Mulan." If you'd like to secure your spot for Fantasmic by purchasing a Fantasmic dining package, the first day those are available is November 30th, with the window to make those reservations beginning October 26th. It'll be really awesome to see this show return. I'd hazard a guess that first month of shows, they are probably just going to be wall-to-wall packed with people who have been waiting a very, very long time for this. So great to see. Next up, over at EPCOT, Tom Corliss of WDW News Today reported on Wednesday he has been hearing from his sources that after many years of Disney kicking the can down the road, we kept hearing, oh, all these EPCOT projects, they're on pause and things of this nature. It sounds like the Play Pavilion has been officially axed by Disney's executives. Now, technically, this is a rumor because Disney hasn't announced it, but honestly, why would they? You know, why would Disney announce their failures? It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense there. Upon hearing of this report, I reached out to folks who definitely have some knowledge as far as this situation is concerned, and I was like, hey, is the Play Pavilion officially canceled? And I heard back, yes, indeed, the Play Pavilion is canceled, according to my sources as well, so I can definitely corroborate this rumor here. And what's more is I got some info from them on why this pavilion might be canceled. Real quick, for those unaware, the Play Pavilion was a pavilion announced as part of EPCOT's overhaul, and it was announced previously to a lot of the other EPCOT overhaul projects we ended up hearing about. We got the announcement of the Play Pavilion in a February 2019 Disney Parks blog article, the same article where we got the announcement about the updated park entrance when Disney unveiled that art, and that seems like it was forever ago. I feel like we've had this new park entrance at EPCOT for quite a long time here. Disney said of the pavilion back when they announced it, quote, "This new space will be devoted to playful fun and feature an innovative city that'll come to life under the dome of the unnamed pavilion previously known as Wonders of Life. The Pavilion City will be bursting with interactive experiences, your favorite Disney characters, hands-on activities, and engaging entertainment when it opens just in time for the 50th anniversary of the Walt Disney World Resort. This innovative new pavilion is beyond anything we've ever created and is completely unique to EPCOT," said Zach Ridley, portfolio executive, Walt Disney Imagineering. Built on the power of play, it introduces an immersive and interactive city where you can explore, create, and interact with some of your favorite Disney characters. This is an experience worthy of our bold vision for EPCOT and another signature element of our transformation, end quote. So this was February 2019. Consider many of the other Epcot projects we ended up hearing about. Those were announced later at the D23 Expo in August of 2019. And those projects, by the time work was getting underway or about to get underway with those, the parks had shut down, capital expenditure had been severely cut, leading to projects like Spaceship Earth's redo and the Mary Poppins project, those said to be on pause. The Play Pavilion is a little different because it was already well underway at the time the park shut down. And when I say well underway, I mean Disney had gutted the Wonders of Life, resealed the building, which was famous for having leaks, and we had permits filed for set installation at the attraction. Some of those set pieces were in fact installed. And I remember hearing from our sources when the lockdowns began that the sets that hadn't been installed yet, they were being placed in storage to be installed later. Then it was radio silence at the attraction for years. When Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind opened this year, Disney shaped the pathway and the curb in the area in a way where they basically put landscaping and curbing right over the entrance pathway to the Wonders of Life Pavilion, which was now going to be called the Play Pavilion, as though it didn't even exist or wasn't coming or anything like that. And there was a lot of concern about this from Wonders of Life fans, and our friend Dreamfinder guy, he actually asked Zach Ridley about this, the guy behind the Epcot overhaul, and sort of in an unofficial capacity, he was saying, oh, you're going to hear more about it in the future. We're still doing the Play Pavilion, and you'll hear more about it in the future. We have big plans, blah, 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 blah. And then we heard nothing about it at the D23 Expo. Now it sounds like the executives have officially axed the Play Pavilion, and it is not happening. According to this rumor of the Play Pavilion being canceled, it was Parks Chairman Josh D'Amaro who said, okay, we're not doing this anymore. We are canceling this project. Our sources say the reason Disney isn't completing the Play Pavilion and is eating this big loss with all this money they already put towards the project is because it would cost more to finish the project and to run the project in perpetuity because of the labor cost. Which is something that we know that Disney absolutely hates. Since they announced this project, Disney's labor expenses have increased, and this attraction would be particularly labor intensive. If you think about it, with all the meet and greets, all the interactive exhibits, there would have been equity actors involved. You would have had all that support staff which you'd need to have going at the attraction constantly. And we know that Disney has issues with labor shortage, and they're paying a lot more for labor, at least that's what Disney says. And it still seems to not be enough. Disney isn't paying enough to attract people. They're saying it's not worth it to work for Disney. So Disney has all these things they're basically making for a situation where it's like, you know, cast members could be better used elsewhere. And also we don't want to have to pay to have cast members run this pavilion. Therefore, we are not going to finish it. So that's allegedly the reason why the Play Pavilion isn't happening. It's because of the recurring labor expense if they were to finish it and open the pavilion. This pavilion was intended to add more family-friendly activities to the park, but since work on the Play Pavilion has begun and the Epcot overhaul began, Disney's discovered something. Ever since the lockdowns, they've realized that they can really push the guests around and they'll just take it. They'll just be they're like, okay, that's fine. Think about it. Disney was operating Epcot where basically the entire middle of Future World was just a crater. Future World was just a big dirt patch, and guests were still willing to come in droves, to the effect of 7,752,000 guests which allegedly attended Epcot last year. It's just insane to think about. So you might be wondering, why are people showing up if there aren't that many rides? A lot of the rides are in a state of disrepair. Disney's not even doing the Play Pavilion. They've totally given up on the Epcot overhaul. What's the deal here? Why is Disney not worried about this? It's because the attractions are just a draw, right? You put Moana in there and you say, oh, now we have a Moana attraction in Epcot. It's a way to get people to the park. What the park is actually about is food. That's the park's entire reason for being. And I'm not saying that as some sort of joke or as a slight or as some sort of hot take. I'm being 100% serious. The park used to be a Living World's Fair. It is now about optimizing the park to ensure guests spend as much money as possible on food and alcohol. That is what the park is about. And you could say every park is about driving people to spend money on these additional things like merchandise and food. At parks like Magic Kingdom, you'll actually find the limiting factor is capacity. At Epcot, it's just all about the food. It's all about how can we make sure guests are spending as much money on food as humanly possible. It really is the food park. So since most guests don't care whether Epcot is a World's Fair or a mound of dirt. They'll come either way because you have all these food booths and festivals and things going on. You can drink around the world. Disney sized down on the aspirations for the Future World area. The center of the park will be mostly pathway and planner space, which will be populated with more food booths, I think we can safely assume, in the future here. And what's more, the Play Pavilion has been left in such bad condition, being mostly the gutted Wonders of Life and also partially the Play Pavilion, that now it's unavailable. It cannot be used in its current state for event space. It cannot be used as event space until Disney commits more money into redesigning and furnishing the inside. Over the last month, workers have been spotted on the Play Pavilion on several occasions, raising hopes that the project was not dead. Closer examination has found the additional work was about maintaining and resealing parts of the dome itself, where you potentially had leaks. So not only is the inside an absolute disaster, also the work they did finish sealing the roof, and now looks like they're having continued issues on that front as well. So needless to say, the Wonders of Life Pavilion continues to be an absolute mess. It has been for what, like 20 years now. It's been a pretty long time that it's been either seasonally a life and health pavilion or a festival center and partly abandoned. And now we're looking at a situation where the inside is all messed up, and what they were actually doing in it, they have sets installed for a project that is no longer happening by the sounds of it. I will say about the Play Pavilion, personally, I wasn't too big on having a Disney emojis themed thing in Epcot, of all places, but I will say I thought the idea for the interactive exhibits and all this was actually pretty cool, and having a central space for all the meet and greets that isn't sort of like shoehorned into the middle, into some sort of space, like having it off on the side like this, I thought that it was a pretty good location for something like that. And the whole idea of having a projection dome, making the inside of the dome projection mapped, was very cool as well. There's definitely a lot of potential here, and I think that people vastly underestimated this pavilion, thinking that it would only be kids stuff. The Imagineers had some pretty cool ideas here for this space, both the aesthetics of it as well as the exhibits and interactivity type stuff that you were going to have there. But it looks like all that development work and all the money that Disney spent at this point, it sounds like it was all for naught, because they would have to pay for the labor expense to run it day to day, and they've realized guests will take whatever they can get, even if it isn't ideal. So why bother spending tens of thousands extra in operating costs per day when it isn't absolutely necessary? And that is a perfect segue to our final story here about the latest round of price hikes that Disney is doing at Walt Disney World and Disneyland. Basically, you know, it's pretty basic. Basically, Disney's raising prices on everything from soda to food to individual lightning lanes. You're talking 10% increases, something like that on a lot of these things. And we see this all the time. I want to touch on this story because a lot of people have been emailing me and saying, Brayden, we have to do something about this. And I've seen a lot of people, you know, on Twitter and stuff complaining about this latest round of price hikes. And I say, why? Why are you complaining that Disney is making everything more expensive if you're just going to pay for it anyways? That's why Disney can raise prices and why it's perfectly reasonable for soda to cost over $4. I put out a tweet where I was joking, you know, what's wrong with a $4 soda? It's just a $6 soda. Enjoy your $25 soda. But it's true, you know, the prices keep rising and people keep coming in droves to the parks. People are paying these prices happily. The parks are packed, so we really don't have a whole lot of room to complain unless we're people that are like standing by our conviction and not going to the parks until Disney lowers the prices or something like this. But I think most of us, you know, are just like, whatever, I'll just pay for the more expensive soda. You know, it's not like I'm not going to go to Disney. And it's for that reason that Disney can continue raising prices. And I really just don't feel like we really have a whole lot of right to complain here if we are continuing the problem and continuing to patronize Disney. So you guys know what I'm going to say. If you really have a problem with these higher prices, if $4.29 is your limit, I'm not going to pay that for soda. Disney, you've priced me out. That's good. That's absolutely fine. What you need to do is not pay Disney any money. If there was less demand at the parks, prices wouldn't rise as fast because it would further hurt demand if Disney were to do that. If demand was lower, if enough guests just said enough, they'd lower prices or at the very least keep them the same. They'd be forced to offer more discounts and entice guests to visit. We are starting to see a little bit of that where recently at some of the restaurants, Disney's been increasing portion sizes, and they're also offering some big hotel and merchandise discounts for annual pass holders, for example. This all could be a sign that Disney sees this post-lockdown growth period is starting to peter out. And if that's the case, and if growth is slowing, and we start to enter a serious recession here, and we start to go into negative growth at the Disney parks, Disney's tune would have to change, where they wouldn't be able to take guests for granted, nickel and dime them as much. Just something to keep in mind there. So if you just hold off booking a vacation, that might be a way to help sort of combat these rising prices in all areas. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe with those notifications on. Thank you guys so much for watching. From the Mickey Views Magic Studio, this is Brayden. Have a magical day.